Kenya was so amazing. I enjoyed every moment of it, so much so that I wasn't posting, I wasn't doing any content. I got a couple videos, but I was really in the moment. It was a short trip, a very intentional trip, and I want to talk about it, right? So I took some notes, as you know, and I'm doing something a little bit different. As you can see, I am not in my house. I'm actually um, at a resort, a close by resort where I oftentimes bring my children and my family and friends to swim in the pool, have good food, go to the ocean. So you can see the Indian Ocean, what I like to call the African Ocean, right? Because it spans the entire east coast of Africa. But maybe someday we can get that changed. But you see in the background the Indian Ocean, and you probably saw my girls going to the beach a few minutes ago. You're going to hear some different sounds in the background. Of course, the waves, it's a bit windy, and some people enjoying themselves here at the resort. So we're going to film the content and see how it comes out. But in the meantime, welcome to the channel. Welcome back to all of the subscribers. My name is Ashley. On this channel, Ashley in Africa, I talk about my experience moving, living, and doing business here on the continent. I share my experience of motherhood, love, and entrepreneurship. I'm also the creator of Africa Investors Academy, a community of entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and investors who are building businesses, expanding businesses, and investing in projects and assets here on the continent of Africa to retire early. So if that sounds interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel, join our community, like the video, and share it with someone who will find value in it. Yeah, and so in this video, I want to talk a little bit about my experience in Kenya, specifically through the lens of, yes, a foreigner, to a tourist, someone that was there for tourism only and there for a short period of time, but three, also someone in business development and someone that, really is, I get geeked about economic trends. If you've seen any of my content here on the channel, I talk a lot about business, talk a lot about economies, and that's what I'm into. So if that sounds interesting, stay tuned. You'll want to hear what I have to share. So one of the first things I noticed when I got to Kenya that was so funny was I immediately started going into Swahili. Like I was like, Niko hapa Kenya, karibu, asante, habari yako, like saying all of the things. And everyone was tickled, from like the drivers and that picked me up from the airport, to the people at the restaurants, to people at the stores and shops, just meeting people randomly. Like, people were so tickled that I was speaking Swahili. Of course, they asked me where I was from. I told them I came here from Tanzania. And they were like, oh, wow, of course, that's why you speak Swahili. Tanzania, they only speak Swahili. In fact, they speak the true Swahili. So that was dope, having that experience. And immediately, I want to say I was like offered a job, offered a partnership, like a suitor. And it was a different vibe, of course, so different than being here in Tanzania, but dope. And I noticed a few things, some opportunities around business. So as I mentioned, I traveled there for a brief period of time. I was a tourist and I moved around. I didn't spend a lot of time speaking with Kenyans, on their challenges or the problems that they were looking to solve. This is me coming from a complete tourist, foreigner perspective with somewhat of rose-colored glasses, right? But every time I'm somewhere, I love to spend time studying the economy, studying the environment, understanding, economic trends, understanding what is happening and how can I contribute in maybe solving some of those problems. And again, I didn't do a super deep dive. I was enjoying myself, restoring myself, and really trying to connect with the environment around me, thus not doing a whole lot on social media, but I took some notes and I want to jump in. So Kenya is one of the largest exporters of coffee. And similar to Tanzania, there are a lot of government involvements in the trade of coffee as a high commodity, a high quality good. And there is huge opportunity around exportation of high quality goods in Kenya, including coffee, including avocados, and some of those things that are processed. So I know even here in Tanzania, I get Kenyan coconut cream, right? It's like packaged, manufactured, processed in Kenya. And so if you are looking to export products from the continent, coconut milk, mangoes, coffee, avocado, even avocado oil, huge opportunity from Kenya. Also, the next thing I'd say, again, pure like high level waste management. This is a challenge, I believe, really all around the continent, and something that I definitely noticed. I did see people burning their trash. I did see, specifically in Mombasa, kind of, gathering of debris. And this, if you are able to solve the problem of waste management, I saw Waste Management, the company there in Nairobi. But if you are able to solve that problem, you have a huge opportunity to do business on the continent. The next thing is finishing of jewelry. So specifically in Tanzania, there are gemstones. I mean, tanzanite only found in Tanzania, and there are mining operations that are happening today, discovering more tanzanite, more gemstones all over East Africa. And I have some folks that I know here in Tanzania that are selling jewelry, and they have one person that finishes the jewelry here in town, but they've expressed a lot of challenges around finding someone that does that type of work with the quality, the level of professionalism, expertise, and in a timely fashion. And so what I noticed was that in Kenya, there are a lot of these places that are actually finishing and supplying the jewelry. So if you are a finisher of jewelry or jewelry designer, or potentially have relationships in the West where you can custom make jewelry and sell jewelry, because I actually know of a woman, I don't know her that well, but I know her through Instagram, who sells jewelry from East Africa in very highbrow luxury shops, right? Like the Saks Fifth Avenue, the Harrods, like that space. And so huge opportunity there if you have an interest in that. And the finishing of jewelry, specifically here on the continent, because from what I'm told, a lot of jewelry finishing is done in Dubai or Europe, because of the lack or perception of lack of talent and expertise. And so what I did discover or learn about was that there is that level of processing happening in Kenya. So huge opportunity there. I think the fourth thing that I noticed was African interior design. And so again, I only spent my time in a couple of spaces, Airbnbs and hotels. But what I noticed was they were very Western as far as the furnishings. And also, I'd say even lacked a bit of quality, just in the fact that they were, I think, trying to appear to the very strong Western population that exists in Kenya. But still, very much like Tanzania, you can access custom-made furniture from everywhere. You can access beautifully made. Thank you so much. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Bye. You can access this beautifully handmade furniture, fabrics, even from, all over. And I noticed that, that's a huge opportunity. African interior design. Again, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm saying from the 5 or 6 spaces that I spent time in, it was missing kind of that African centered design that I love seeing as a foreigner when I'm in different spaces. And I think that's a huge opportunity for Kenyans. The next thing, beauty, hair care, grooming. Okay, I definitely saw some Western products when I went to the Nibis, or I went to different spaces, and of course, the Chinese has a huge presence in Kenya. But as the middle class grows, and as women and men are making more money, African women and African men are making more money, the grooming of our skin and our hair is different than the products that are supplied to us from the West, from China. Huge opportunity for Kenyan chemists, for people that just have a passion in beauty and health and grooming. Yeah, like start creating some products, creating some skincare lines, some hair care lines, some beard care, some, locks, if that's what you're into. Huge opportunity there. And fragrance. I also noticed there was like a really large presence of like, Arabic fragrance. And while, yeah, their scents are beautiful, I know just with our pheromones and the way in which we as African people and our melanin, is chemically enriched, our own type of fragrances, I think, would do amazing. So if you are into fragrances or have a passion around that, huge, huge, huge opportunity. Is this resonating? Is this helpful? Please be sure to like it and share it with someone else who would find value, an entrepreneur that's building their business and needs some, additional encouragement, or someone that wants to build a business and isn't really sure where they would fit in. I think this video would help them. All right, so the next thing, wellness work. Spas, retreats. I was actually there for somewhat of a retreat, and the people that I was there with were all essentially some form of healers. We don't call ourselves that, but essentially we're doing that work and we're sharing that work with people in different capacity, and we were really there to experience that. I will say that, again, not having spent a ton of time, we went to a beautiful spa in Mombasa, heard about different spas that were available in Nairobi. But from what I understand, people are really interested in wellness and healing work. And so retreats, spas, group kind of healing spaces, ceremonies, that type of thing is especially needed. I was speaking to one of the drivers that was driving me around, and he was talking about, I asked him about the holiday schedule and the work schedule, and it felt very similar to the West, right? It felt very similar. Like, for example, South Africa, for the most part, gets the entire month of December off. Like, government offices are closed, corporations are closed. Some people are doing business. My partners are doing business, but for the most part, the month of December is the holiday season, well into January. And when I was speaking to the driver, he told me pretty much companies are open up until the 22nd to 24th. They resume again between the 27th and the 30th, and then, kind of start back around the 3rd or the 4th. And I was like, man, that sounds like America, And so if people are working with that level of intensity, wellness, mindfulness, retreat type of spaces are vital. I also went horseback riding in a forest right in the city of Nairobi. And I noticed that there were a lot of, as our ride kind of winded down, I noticed there were a lot of what looked like professionals coming and doing walks in the forest. And so I was like, oh, okay, I see. I think it was Karura Forest. So I could tell. And then once I got to the parking lot and I saw those cars, I was like, oh yeah, these are absolutely working class professionals that are probably making six figures, but they're working their butts off, likely also working, 60 hours a week in line with their Western bases. And yeah, there was a need for that level of retreat. And so if you're in that work, if you're passionate about that work, there's a huge opportunity to do business around wellness, spas, and retreats in Kenya. The next thing that I noticed was the connectivity of Kenya is vast. Like, everywhere you go, there is Wi-Fi. Everywhere you go, you can get, like, I had no real issues with my network. I mean, I had issues because I didn't purchase a local SIM. I purchased roaming, which that was a whole nother issue. But my friends who purchased their local SIM, had service like everywhere, even in the most rural part of our travel experience when we were going to Mombasa. And so what I learned is I think over 95% of the Kenyan population has access to cell phones. And the government has made it so that Wi-Fi and connectivity to the internet is accessible, it's affordable, making some of Kenyan's population some of the most educated with access to education population on the continent and in East Africa. But I also noticed that schooling, when I would talk to Kenyans and they would talk about school and school fees, they would say, government schools are good, but really not as great for getting, access to world-class education post-grad. And then also that it was expensive. And so I saw a lot of billboards for these private schools, and all of the people that we came into contact with that had young children just really loathed about the cost of schooling. A huge opportunity for educators is virtual online learning. This is a great way to make global education accessible to people in Kenya. And for the youth, they need to be able to learn with computers because the trajectory of their experiences, the way that they learn, the access to not only education but trades and jobs, honestly, or even creating business relies on their ability to work and learn with computers and with technology. So if you are an educator or you have a passion for education, you can absolutely create an online community, an online platform for learning. Of course, you would have to connect with the different entities in the government, maybe create partnerships with different schools to do test and trial runs. But to me, this seems like a great opportunity for not only Kenyans, specifically for Kenyans, but for people that have an interest in building or expanding their business to the continent of Africa. This is probably my favorite idea because not only can you create a curriculum that is relatable, that is necessary for today's learner and today's child, you can also solve a huge problem by closing the gap in access to affordable world-class education in the country of Kenya. So I love this idea. Let me know what you think about this idea. The next thing, e-commerce. So marketplace, creating a marketplace of shopping. Like other countries in Africa, I noticed that malls are everywhere. Shopping complexes are everywhere. And I also noticed that boda bodas are everywhere, right? So an opportunity to create a marketplace where local vendors, local proprietors of products are able to deliver their products domestically and potentially internationally, because I know, Kenya is a huge hub for exportation in East Africa. Creating a marketplace for African-owned goods, women-owned goods, male-owned goods, whatever, beauty products, fashion, home goods, wellness products, vitamins, food, groceries, an online marketplace where people can go to shop and get access to it online and get delivery in 24 hours. I'm sure that there are these. I did see a couple of different platforms that exist, but there can be more, right? There can be niche marketplaces specifically for different niches and different, and someone that can absolutely do it well. The wind is blowing a bit, so it's shaking my camera. I hope it's not too distracting, and that you're getting some of this, right? So the next thing is I've been made aware because I have been watching a lot of content on different countries in Africa. And one of the biggest, I think, complaints from continentals is the access to jobs. And while my belief is that economic freedom and financial independence truly comes from, entrepreneurship, I also believe that working within a corporation, working in partnership with a corporation, if you can put that mindset forward as you're working with an organization is a great opportunity. And now when we are in this global economy where people are working remotely and people are, looking for technical talent, Kenya seems to have one of the highest groups of strongly educated technical talent. And this is a huge opportunity for someone to aggregate that talent and create a staffing agency, right? Create a staffing agency for Western companies, for other African companies that are looking for talent with an ability to earn a Western wage, right? I'm sure there is some logistics here, visa needs, but when you look at the profit margins of a talent placement agency, they're huge. So figuring out a way to give access to people and getting a visa, building that into the revenue model and building that into the way that you bring on clients that are looking for talent, I think it's a huge opportunity. How do you do this? Create community of working class professionals that are looking for work, right? Start to connect with different communities online through LinkedIn and figure out who needs developers, who needs, project managers, who needs digital marketers, who needs coders, who needs different technical talent, and create events to attract those people, get their emails, get their phone numbers, and start to build relationships with corporations online that are potentially looking for talent abroad. The next thing is, as Kenya is growing and as companies, Western companies, are coming to Kenya to build, and you've got the $1 trillion cities that are being built in Kenya, for those that are able to build servers, again, huge opportunity, because corporations are coming to Kenya. More people are coming to Kenya. The government is invested in attracting people to come to Kenya, and people are not getting off of the internet anytime soon. So if you are good at building servers or managing the process of servers, huge opportunity, huge business opportunity for you. So I hope that was helpful. Please be sure to like this video and share it with someone who would find value in it. If you are an entrepreneur that is looking to join a community of like minds, I'd encourage you to come visit us at ashleyinafrika.com, learn about the resources that I've created for you, and specifically learn more about the Africa Investors Academy. We are growing, we are getting more access to experts, and if you're an expert and you have an interest in joining our community as well, please be sure to send me an email via the email in the description. But until the next time, until the next video, I'll see you soon.